Hello guys, and welcome to Halloween season 2017. There are a bunch of videos coming your way all this month. I'm not going to say 31 because I'll probably jinx it if I say it, but there will be a bunch regardless, and we're kicking things off with this sort of Halloween queen. I wanted to have a skull vibe, but not do a full-on skeleton. So this is what I came up with. I hope you guys enjoy it. And this is also a collab with my friend Hazel, or Hazel's Heart XO on Instagram. She created such a cool look for this, so please go check her out and show her some love. We're starting this video off with another beautiful wig. This one was sent to me from the company Musegetes. I think that's how you say it. So big thank you to them, and I just have to say, and I know I've been saying this about all of these wigs recently, but I really love it, like so much. The color is gorgeous, it fits me really well, it didn't get super tangly while we were out shooting, and when I'm looking at it right now on Amazon, it's just $39.99, and it also has Prime shipping available if you happen to have Amazon Prime. So if you want to check it out, I will be sure to have all of the information and links down below for you guys. So if we turn it inside out, the wig has a comb at the front, and then one on each side to help secure it in place, and at the back we have the adjustable bands that hook on either side so the wig has a nice snug fit around your head. The cap itself is of the stretchy mesh variety, which y'all know by now I absolutely love. The only thing I wish I could add is a comb in the back. Also, the hair is pretty thick, which is great. It is slightly more shiny at the root area, but I did add a bit of dry shampoo and then it was perfect. This wig came with the nylon stocking caps, which I do love. They take a bit more work if you have longer hair, so in that respect, I would usually go with the double open-ended caps, but these nylon ones are really great quality, and I especially like to use these ones when I'm wearing a lighter colored wig. And these caps also come with 2 in a pack, so that's a plus as well. When I cut the extra lace off around the hairline, I try to get as close as I can to the hair, but I'll usually leave a few empty rows of the mesh of the lace just to be safe. I can always go back in after and cut a bit closer if I feel like I need to, which I do a little bit here, but typically I just err on the side of caution so I don't cut too far back. And I'm using a pair of hair scissors for this. I would say the smaller the better / easier for this step. Then to put the wig on, since we're using a stocking cap with this, I'm putting my hair into a quick low braid first so it's easier to tuck in. Then holding the cap in place at the front hairline and pulling it back, kind of swirling my braid around and tucking it in along with any extra hairs. I made a really loose braid, but if you wanted to take more time to make it tighter and nicer, you'd have less work when putting the wig cap on. Then once I have my hair flattened out pretty well, I'm placing the wig straight on, again lining up and holding it in place at the front hairline, then pulling back down over my hair and securing that in place. After the back's good, I reline up the front hairline, securing that comb, and then pushing the side combs back into my hair in front of the wig cap, making sure I don't have any wig hairs stuck on the inside of the cap. Then all I need to do is apply a little bit of my concealer along the lace, since this one is slightly darker than my skin tone, and then we're good to go. Moving on to the makeup, I'm first applying my usual foundation, concealer, and powder. You could always use a white or just a lighter product if you want more of a ghostly skull look, but once I've applied the foundation all over my face, I'm then concealing any areas that need a bit more coverage or that I want to brighten. Once that's done, I'm just making sure everything is nice and blended out, then setting it all with a mattifying translucent powder. I'm also contouring as I usually would along the cheekbones, up onto the temples, below the bottom lip, and a little bit on the nose, forehead, and jawline, but we are going to intensify this with a slightly darker and cooler shade as well. My usual contour shade gets applied very softly and more blown out, but with the darker shade, I'm taking it on a smaller brush so we get a slightly more defined shadow, but we're still going to blend this in nicely to the original shade. You can create darker, more dramatic contours if you'd like to as well. I'm also blending this shade down toward the corners of the mouth and onto my eyelids. Starting out the eyeshadow with a really warm, medium, tan, brown shade and another slightly more red-orange shade. I was really feeling the fall vibes with this, but definitely feel free to change up the color scheme if you want to. I'm taking the first shade on a fluffy blending brush and applying it to the inner area of the eye and blending onto the lid and onto the contour of the nose a bit. I'm taking this up into the inner part of the brows and then applying to the outer portion of the lower lash line, really smoking it out, and I'm blending it just a little bit onto the upper lid. I'm building up that color until I'm happy with it, blending out the edges so everything is nice and soft, and then applying that more orangey red shade over top in the same manner. I'm then going in with a matte black eyeshadow on a more precise blending brush and applying that to kind of the centermost parts of where we apply the other shades. Again, starting out small and building up that color and blending it out into the orange. I'm also going back and forth a bit between brushes here, using any leftover orange to blend as I go. I then used a copper pigment from NYX with their mixing medium, which if I did this again I probably wouldn't use and just go straight in with the next eyeshadow, because I found that it got dry and kind of crusty looking with the eyeshadow over top, which was not very cute, but anyway, here we are. I applied this mix to the mobile lid, blending up to about the crease and into my other eyeshadows. Then over top of that mix I applied, once it was dry, a foiled copper shadow. But what I should have just done was apply a primer and then maybe wet my brush and then applied the foiled shadow. It would have been gorgeous, but I didn't, so you know, learn from my mistakes. Next I went in with the NYX Glitter Primer topped with their gold glitter and very carefully applied that to the inner portion of the lower lash line, trying to blend it out a bit at the bottom so it has more of a fade and not just an abrupt edge. Then I brushed / flicked away any of the glitter fallout, which to my surprise there really wasn't much, and then I gently pressed over with my finger just to make sure it was all stuck down, and again I was pleasantly surprised that really nothing came off. This was my first time trying their glitter base, and first impressions are good. For my brows, I'm just filling in as I usually would, using a precise brow pencil, brushing the product through as I go, and cleaning up with a little concealer if needed. I wanted to create a softer, more blended effect at the inner part, as well as make them look a bit more fluffy and wispy overall, so I applied a clear brow gel and brushed the hairs upward so the texture could be seen better. I'm then using that first warm brown shadow on the same small blending brush to start carving out the bone structure along the cheekbones, curving in where we want to hollow out the cheeks, and then taking it up onto the temples. I'm following my own bone structure, but just slightly modifying it to how I like it, and you can keep this more natural or make it more dramatic by simply placing these lines differently. Play around with it a bit and see what you like. I'm also taking this shadow down to connect with the corners of the mouth and then shading more below or outside the lines we created to start adding depth to the shadows. Same as with the eyes, building up that color until I'm happy with it. I'm also lining the top of the lower jawbone, connecting that to the cheekbone shadow at the top, then blending this one up from that line and again deepening the shadow. I decided to add a little bit of shading with this under the lower lip as well, and then I'm marking out where the skull nostrils will go, taking one side up slightly higher as I usually like to do with these. And now we're going in with a black eyeshadow, starting out light and building up to darken the deepest parts of the shadows at the hollows of the cheeks, the temples, and the nostrils. Now for the fun part, I'm using the NYX Epic Ink Liner in black to define all those lines and shadows we just created. I wanted this to have a sketchy look to it, so I'm lining in several wispy lines rather than a single sharp line all the way up. Same as with the black eyeshadow, I want to create the darkest, most saturated lines toward the deepest parts of the shadows, thinning them out at the ends. I'm also lining onto the corners of my lips to give it a smooth flow from cheek to lip line. And this eyeliner has got to be my all-time favorite thing to line with right now. I don't want to use anything else. You can get the most precise thin lines or darker, thicker lines just by changing the pressure you put on it, which I know you can do with other products and brushes, but I just absolutely have been loving this eyeliner ever since I used it to outline all my stones in my Face Awards video earlier this year, and this is actually the same eyeliner, still going strong for this look. One of the beauties about creating more of this sketchy look, other than the fact that I just love how it looks, is that you can slightly mess up your lines and just work that right into your design if you want to, which I did several times here, let's be honest. The first side was kind of like, okay, let's figure out what we want this to actually look like, and then the other side was just smooth sailing. But you can also work each side more at the same time if that works better for you. For the nostrils, I'm first outlining and then creating those more sketchy lines and darkening certain areas, and I'm not completely filling these shapes in with the black. I then decided to add in more wavy lines along where I had already lined to give it more of a maybe whimsical feel. I'm keeping a very light pressure on the liner and just wavering it back and forth following my previous lines. And I'm also bringing the lines up from the temple and giving them thinner lines, interweaving the waves a little bit. Adding more detailing, I'm first lining little plus signs under the eyes, followed by 3 small dots below them going from biggest to smallest. Then applying wavy brushstroke lines around the outside of the eyes, following the shape of my eye socket. With all the detailing here, I wanted to hint at the shape of an eye socket without fully lining one. I added more dots under the brows and thickened the center portion of the brushstroke line to give it more of a calligraphy or brush lettered look. I then decided to go back in with a black eyeshadow to deepen some of the hollows a bit more and just in general shade along the lines. I also added some smudging up from the lines, especially around the mouth area, so that part of the face didn't look like it was super sticking out so much. I smudged up onto the forehead as well, then decided to take the lining up further around the forehead on one side, and then once lined, I shaded and smudged using the warm shadows as well as the black. Back to the eye socket detailing, I lined along the top outer part, then flicked out, adding in a second line and connecting the two to give a bit of a batwing vibe, also adding in thin wispy ends. Final detail around the eyes, I lined along the inner part of the socket, making it a little bit thicker at the center and again thinning out the ends. I also added more dotting texture under the inner part of the brow, but I kind of forgot and didn't do it until the end, so I didn't film that part. I'm then curling my lashes and tightlining my eye with a black pencil eyeliner, really working it into the lash line and smudging it just a tad onto the lid since this is the only liner I'll be wearing, so I just want to make sure that lash line is nice and blacked out. I'm also lining the lower waterline with this black, blending and smudging with a pencil brush along the lower lash line at the outer corner and again just a bit onto the top lash line. Then applying more black eyeshadow to the inner part of the eye socket detailing and setting that lower liner in place as well. And mini snack break while I decide what lip color I want to use. Then I'm applying black mascara to top and bottom lashes, and as always, feel free to wear falsies if you want to. I tend to not, and also I was just having a good lash day, so that helped solidify that decision. For the lips, I decided on a pumpkin orange liquid lip, and this one has some glitter in it as well. I'm applying this all over the lips and then using a small detail paintbrush to connect the lip line out to the black liner, wisping it back into the lines so it blends in nicely. Then once pretty much all the product has gone from the brush, I decided to diffuse the edges of the lip line just near the corners of the mouth. Then I'm adding in lining detail along the lip line, just inside of it actually. Again, creating a smooth transition from cheek to lip line, and I'm lining them most at the corners of the mouth. I wanted to add something a bit more, so I'm applying a little bit of the black eyeshadow to the center of the lips, blending it out and also puckering my lips as I apply the shadow so the black doesn't quite get into all the wrinkles and we have a little bit of cool texture. As a final detail, I cut up some lower false lashes and stacked them and then applied those near the inner corner of the lash line. Then after I put my wig on, I applied some of my contour and the warm eyeshadow shades along the hairline to A, contour the forehead, and B, actually help blend that hairline in with my skin a bit better so it looks more natural. And last but not least, I applied a little setting spray and then we're done. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I am so super excited to show you what I've been working on so far for this month, and I hope you're excited too. Stay tuned. Be sure to check out all the information down below. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one.